Brian Pritchard, FetcherNews.com, FYN reports. It's October, and you know what that means. It means it's election season in Blue Ridge. November 5th, citizens of Blue Ridge will be going to the polls. Many positions are open here, and we're currently speaking with Lynda Thompson. Lynda is a candidate for Post 4. She's opposing Rodney Kendall that currently holds the position. Ms. Thompson, thank you for sitting down with me today to talk about your candidacy for Post 4. I got your card. I've looked at several of the accomplishments that you have listed. But let's start immediately. Tell us, how long have you been in Blue Ridge? I've seen this on the card, but share that with us.
I've been in Blue Ridge 9 years. I started my business 10 years ago. And I came up here, visit friends, loved Blue Ridge, and saw the old Fannin County Bank, and they were renovating it, and I said it would be good for a coffee shop.
So you came up, visit some friends.
Mm-hmm.
This story happens a lot around here. Came up to visit some friends, nice quiet weekend, and seeing the old bank being renovated, and said that would be a great place for a coffee shop. So you've been a resident for 5 years?
In downtown.
Downtown?
Downtown, yes.
Okay.
I still have my home here in Mineral Bluff, which I never get up there since my husband passed away. That's why I live upstairs of my coffee shop.
Oh, so you live upstairs at the coffee shop?
Yep.
And you've been down, the coffee shop's 9 years and you've lived downtown for 5?
The coffee shop is 10 years.
10, I apologize.
I started it a year before we came up here. And then 5 years after that, that's when I opened up the cafe next door.
So let me ask you, you've seen the upside of the economy in the 2006, we'll call it, to the bust, to what Blue Ridge had to do to sustain growth and try to come back. So you've seen up, and then the economy just fall out from under us.
Yes.
And now struggling back. So let me ask you a question. How do you think Blue Ridge has done in the last 4 years of coming back economically, or handling the economic pressures that was put under the city?
Well, I think it slowly came back at first, but if you will look downtown now, we have no vacancies in any of our stores. So in order to not have no vacancies, you got to have people coming in to buy, and I think more people are coming to Blue Ridge. We're just it's a haven for people that want to get away. There was one lady that told me from Miami that said, you know, when I want to get away from the humidity and the rush of the traffic, I know to head up to Blue Ridge. And it's getting around more and more. No matter where you go, people say, oh, you're from Blue Ridge? And they say, oh, I just love Blue Ridge. You know, so everybody, the word's getting out. We're becoming the next Aspen.
You're nationally known, and I will say that because I've been in 5 states away and start telling people where I'm from or the region I live in, and I start pinpointing down and I get to Blue Ridge and they go, oh, we've heard of that. So you become nationally known. But let me ask you a question. The town has switched to becoming a tourist town. Is that good? What have been the benefits?
Well, I think it's good in one respect that it is tourist, because there are only, what, 1,200 residents in the little town of Blue Ridge. And to have the money coming in for the things that we need to grow, water tanks, roads, whatever, you've got to have tourists coming in, but we do want to control that growth, that we can keep the small sense of community. And I think that our leaders-to-be have done a good job of controlling as to what they let come in, and the tax structure, just so we don't have property tax to raise on people, and people don't like their property tax raised.
Well, let me ask you a question. I've looked at what you put on your card that you've sent out to voters, and it says you're currently the president of the Blue Ridge Business Association. And there's a couple places I want to go with this, and you're currently Blue Ridge City Business Owner, 9 years, Fannin County Chamber of Commerce, 2011 Chamber Member of the Year, Chairman of Chamber Tourism Committee. I mean, you have a long list. Co-chair of Fire and Ice Cook-Off. You have a long list here. of things that you've been involved in.
Right.
I would probably, I don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know you. In transparency, I've come in the coffee shop and gotten a cup of coffee.
Right.
But you and I really don't know you. So, but even this card, I'd have a hard time arguing that you're very involved in your community.
Yes,
okay, you're involved with your community.
Right.
So I guess the question I have is, why? What do you think that you can accomplish, or you're going to accomplish? Why add city council post 4 to this list? Why this next step?
I always got to have something to do. My husband passed away. I have a lot of time on my hand because basically my store right now, my staff, which has been with me since the beginning, most of them, they run it for me. And I just check in with them and what have you. But I think that the reason why I ran was for the last 3 years I have attended the city council workshops. I've gone to the city council meetings. And there is, you know, you have to have the puzzle fit for anything to work. If you have constant fighting, it does not work. And you don't get anything done because everybody's not in agreement with each other. And I just feel that I am a people person. I work well with people. I could be an asset on the board of the council. And as far as president of the business association, I only did that as a temp person until December because I said we didn't have anybody at the time, and they asked me to do that just until December.
You know, I look at some of the numbers. Blue Ridge in 4 years have gone from 200, and I'm going to use round numbers so they're not accurate, but they're close.
Right.
200 and some businesses to over 400.
Right.
That's a fact.
Right.
Sales tax revenue's up. There's so many things that have gone the correct direction, and I say that I don't want to say any individual.
No.
Because it takes the whole business community, it takes
does.
city council, it takes your mayors, it takes everybody getting involved. So what about the direction of the city when you said, I don't say quote, you said fighting or arguing or whatever?
No, I meant that, you know, it's like a family. Council, when you sit on there, your personalities have to blend, and you know that with any family, if you don't one, whatever the other. Your personalities need to blend, you all need to be in the same direction. Now, I realize everybody has differences of opinion, but you take those different opinions and then you weed them down to one that they all kind of are on the same page, and I think that's what needs to happen.
Well, you know, like I said, you've got a long list here of things you've been involved in with the city, and you're very involved as a business owner.
And I'm also on the tourism, the tourism bed tax. I'm on the budget for that, and we do that once a year to decide how we're going to spend the tourism tax. And if we don't spend that tourism tax within the year, it has to be given back to the state of Georgia. So we plan to try to have an activity every month to promote downtown Blue Ridge, and especially in January and February when it's a slow time for the merchants. But that's changed also because we're becoming a year-round destination, and we see it more and more each year. We used to say, oh, we dread January and February, but not anymore. I mean, it's becoming a year-round destination.
Well, what do you, now you're a resident, and no, you're 5 years you're a resident of Blue Ridge. Let me not, don't take this wrong, you're a resident, but, and I want to say it that way.
Right.
And I call it the, and I've said it with every candidate, you go to the traffic light, and I call it East 2nd Street, downtown. So you're at the traffic light, and the city has a lot of other areas.
Right.
But just from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill, there's almost two worlds.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you have on East 2nd Street, you have the residents, and you have a lot of longtime people that have been there for years and years and years. And just down over the hill, you have the business community. So what do you think you can do as a council person, or what the city needs to do to maintain a healthy respect for the residents of the city. Now, I think nobody can argue that the tourist side helped bring in SPLOST money.
Right, right.
The tourist, but the actual goods and services and the quality of life for the residents, how do you protect that?
Well, I think the residents too need to be a little more involved, to voice their opinion. I don't, not make us like we're a divided line or a wall like the wall with China. This is downtown and I'm here and I'm not getting all the benefits. I think lately we have been looking after the residents, and just in my campaigning I went and talked to different residents, and they seem to be happy with the situation. I mean, you're gonna, you know, there's always going to be a few that's not, and some that don't like what you did. But basically the ones that I talked to felt like they were a sense of community, although we are downtown and then at First Street, Back Street, whatever. But they were seemed to be happy with the way things were going, and I was quite surprised because I didn't think they would, but they were.
But how do you look at, because all of the things that you've been involved in are business community. Would that be fair?
Yes.
And you've
well,
been
not actually, because I believe being on the tourism board, that's kind of helping the residents, because the more money we have coming in, we can do stuff like pave the roads on the back or help the residential area. So I feel that although I was involved in all that downtown, I still think we did look after the residents. I really did.
Okay, let's talk about infrastructure. As a post chairperson. Right. Recently, we had a major water leak that we were only hours away from everybody being dry. And what are some of the infrastructure things that you think have to be done? I mean, I say this, if I go downtown, the streetscape project is beautiful.
It is.
It's beautiful.
It is.
Sidewalks are beautiful, very inviting, very enjoying for the different license plates that I see out there. Bring your money, spend your money, give the tax money to the city. But then I go one street up, and the people that are one street up this way or this way, they're concerned about trash, they're concerned about their water, they're concerned about their taxes, they're concerned about sewer. They have different concerns than downtown. They're concerned about their potholes, their streets. So how do you feel about the infrastructure? What are the #1 things that have to be done for the residents? Not downtown, the residents of Blue Ridge.
Well, our infrastructure was designed for only 50 years. We're way past 50 years. That needs to be addressed first. We are putting in 2 water tanks, one in McKaysville and one in Blue Ridge, which we did get the grant money for that. So that would be my main focus, and then we have to focus on finding the leaks on that infrastructure and start at the most serious point first before we even do anything, because like having that, we didn't know where that was. I don't think we have a design pattern to know where the clay pipes actually are. I think somebody started on that, trying to find out where they are, because when they laid them many years ago, they did not leave a pattern, so you really didn't know where they were underground. So that is a main thing that we really need to, like I said, I think that has been started, someone laying out a flat of where the pipes are so we can start detecting leaks. But when you don't know a pattern of where, that's like putting in your sprinkler system in your yard when you have a leak. Well, if you don't know where the sprinkler system lines are, you're just going to have to start all over your yard, you know.
So you feel it's very important that water come to the top of the issues and things like that?
Yes, I do.
In the city council?
I do.
What is the next thing moving forward for the development of Blue Ridge that you see? What's being worked on now, or what do you think is the #1 thing for the development and for healthy growth?
Okay, I am on also, I don't mention that either because everybody download them with so much stuff. I'm on the board of the forming the Downtown Developmental Authority, and we're looking at gateways to coming into Blue Ridge, like the industrial area coming off of June Walker Ford there, that area coming in there, making it more pleasing to the eye when you come in, looking at the section there by McDonald's and also at that new gas station they put there by Wendy's, coming in that area. And we discussed that last night. Where should we focus on first to make all of Blue Ridge nice? Even like if you come down June Walker, we could actually make a park down there and have a walk over the train tracks to for tourists to go into town. And it's just, I'm passionate about Blue Ridge. I'm not just the two streets, as everybody says, East and West Main. I'm passionate about it all looking good to anybody coming into our town, because I'm proud of my town. And I think if you represent yourself well, that's when more people come back.
So, and you think you could do that and protect the rights and the integrity and the mystique of the residents of Blue Ridge?
Right.
Of what they have grown up, the senior citizens, their children in Blue Ridge?
Right. Well, I know that when you've lived a place a long time, it's kind of hard for change. But I think if you do something gradually, everybody will kind of get on board, you know. But if you come in right away and just change the whole design of it, people are going to be reluctant. But if I think you do it gradually and they see how it's better for the city, I think people will agree with that.
So a positive paced level of growth,
right,
you think the local citizens could be okay with?
Right. And we're going to get their opinions. I mean, that's like the same thing I was telling you about council working together. If you get several different ideas of everybody, and we do that in our exercise in the class, we all came down to one central area, and it was amazing that out of 4 groups, we were given a map, and we all basically do the same thing of what we would do for Blue Ridge.
Okay, let's talk about something else. Let's change subject just for a minute. Okay. Again, I have your card.
Okay.
And you say on this card, brought. So you're fundamentally saying you were at the top of this decision, maybe, but you quote is, brought the ice rink to downtown Blue Ridge. That's the quote you have on
right.
Correct?
Correct. Uh-huh.
Okay. Recently, your opponent voted no on that.
Right.
To renew it. So last year, let me just get straight. Last year was the first year that downtown Blue Ridge had an ice skating rink.
Correct.
Okay. I've said this with other candidates. Light Up, because we're a media organization, we come up to a lot of the festivals and arts in the park, and we cover a lot of stuff when Blue Ridge is doing it. Last year, I was personally up here for Light Up night. I was here, I've seen the train, I've seen the ice skating. They were actually filming that week the Best Hidden Treasures of Georgia, a show that was done. I was here and watched the TV cameras filming that, but quite a festive time.
Right.
Okay, feelings is one thing, money's another.
Right.
So I feel it was just a great atmosphere, but 2 city council members, one being your opponent and one being a current candidate for mayor,
Right.
say it lost money and voted no.
Okay, this is what I'll say to you. It cost us $12,000 for the tent to go over it and just to get the structure. I raised $27,000 in advertising that was around the rink, which those people have agreed to do the advertising again this year. And actually, with our expenses and everything taken out, we gave the city $4,000. So in a first year for a business to make $4,000, no business does that. And part of the money that went into that was tourism tax money. We had designed that at the beginning of the year because I was approached by the gentleman from Atlanta that owns the one in Atlanta, that I think Centennial Park.
Yes, yes.
Centennial Park. He approached me and he says, I want to give y'all a rink. He did that 2 years prior to when he saw me. And then another individual in here that's very prominent in Blue Ridge said, you need to talk to Lynda. She will make it happen. And he came to me. I did all the homework on it, the figures with him. And the tourism tax went entirely toward that rink at that time. There was no taxpayer money whatsoever spent on that rink. And like I said, if we do not spend the tourism tax within the year, it goes directly back to the state of Georgia, and I would rather it be spent in Blue Ridge versus giving it back to the state. The amount of people that told the chamber and was wondering if it was coming back again this year, they got calls about it. We've been getting calls now wanting to know. Our kids here in Blue Ridge have nothing really to do. And one lady actually called me. She was like 85. She lives down that road over by the rink. And she said, you don't know what joy it was to me at night to see the way the economy was at the time, to see those kids out there laughing, having a good time. She said, I think it was an asset to Blue Ridge. And that is all the reports that we have gotten. I have not gotten any negative. I know several people thought it was tax money going toward it, but it was tourism tax money. And we get the figures from the state. We do the budget for the year, and we thought it would be a good asset for Blue Ridge. And it has been. The kids have thoroughly enjoyed it.
Okay, emotionally, emotionally, I was again there, and you couldn't get a better Christmas atmosphere than that night.
Right.
But the money.
Right.
You didn't lose any money.
We didn't.
Did the city lose any money?
Well, the city, supposedly it said the city lost the $12,000, which was for the tent and for the structure. But basically, if you figure the tourism tax that went into it, the advertising, the $27,000 in advertising that was on the side of the rink, we gave them $4,000, like I said, after the expenses that we had. If they had any, they have the figures, and I had them at the last meeting. I should have brought it with me. But as far as losing any money, yes, you might have lost a little bit of money, but what business hasn't in the first year? You lose money.
Well, I wouldn't argue with that, that it has to be it's not for me to say, but I can't argue with a new endeavor, maybe needs a 3-year commitment. I'm not going to argue that. I just want to get to the point of the facts on the money. Do you have the $27,000 again this year?
We have contacted almost every single one of them, and they said yes. We even had one of our merchants downtown that gave me $500, and he said, Lynda, I want it to be a free skate for all the kids in Safe Zone. And he said, I'm giving $500 toward that. Well, you know, we'll have more than that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have time slots that you can come, so he will not be overloaded with so many kids, which, you know, we get thousands of kids at Safe Zone. But we're going to regulate it. You have to come ahead of time and get red ticket, blue ticket, or whatever, have your time slot. But the downtown merchants thoroughly enjoyed it. I had nothing but compliments, and if you go and interview any of the downtown merchants, you might get 1 or 2, but most of them said yes.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to ask you again, so you feel good that you have the same commitments you had last year?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now, that being said, and the only reason I bring this up is, I'm not going to ask you to answer for the 2 no votes, but would you have any feeling on why the two council members voted no the other day? Is there anything that you would think of outside of the $12,000, or? See, they voted yes first time.
They did.
They voted yes. So, and I will tell you, not to lead you in a direction. They voted yes the first time, but then they said they gave it the year, and now they voted no. So, is there? you know, do you think you just didn't sell them on the first year of the optimism in it, or?
No, I sometimes think that if a person has not been in business, I mean, if you have not been in business, you don't know the ins and outs of a business, the procedures that have to be done, I have been in business, and I know that everybody is not going to agree with you, and they might not agree as to why they made that decision. I don't know, but sometimes you make a decision if you don't know the complete facts. Sometimes, you know, you have to look into it, and that's when I was campaigning for the ring a year prior. I was asked to speak at one of the, I don't like to mention anybody's names, but it was a group of women, and I brought pictures of what the rink would look like, not damaging the park in any way. And they said, you know, we're glad that you came to tell us, because we had already formed our opinion as no. And just sometimes, and I had asked someone to come to that meeting so they could hear what it was all about, and they declined. But you have to know all the facts before you can make a decision. And I try to look into everything before I do something, because I go at everything with a positive attitude, because I don't like to fail. So I don't want my name put on something if it's not going to make it, because.
Well, you know, you put your name on it, and I respect that. I want to say I respect you put your name on it, and so I got one question on that, and I'm going to move on. And the only reason I got a question on this is, in my interview with candidate for mayor Michael Eaton, which is currently post 5 chair, he voted no.
Right.
And I asked him questions about it. He said, not to quote him, but that he voted no, not no against the ice rink because he's in favor of Blue Ridge growing.
Right.
He felt that it should have went at the farmer's market. What's your opposition to that?
All right, I'll tell you why. The gentleman, and I won't mention his name, that gave it to us, he told me that he has done it for years. He's had rinks in Tahoe. He has at least 5 different rinks, so he has a little bit more experience than I do, or anybody else that hasn't had a rink. I took him to the farmer's market. I know the farmer's market does need help. He told me, Linda, I will not give you this rink if you put it at the farmer's market. He said it needs to be cleaned up first, the farmer's market. It does not have sides on it, you know, and it's elevated. Children could fall off the sides, so that's going to be added expense to put a railing around that. And he said, why don't you put it in the park the first year? See how it does, and if it does well, then you could always move it to the farmer's market. You've established, it's like establishing a business. Everybody knows ice rink. Okay, where is the ice rink? We can then, at that point, say, okay, we can put it there because people will be looking for it. But if you had put it there first, I had to agree with him, because we went and looked at both sides, and I asked his opinion, and he said, I will not give it to you if you put it there first.
So after a couple years, and I'm not wanting to put words in your mouth, but after a couple years, and it became a staple in the community, there could be a possibility that locating it somewhere else wouldn't be as detrimental to starting it there and nobody knowing where it's at.
I would think that would probably be a good idea, because right now we wanted to make the rink bigger because we had so many kids, and we could only let a certain amount on because of liability purposes. And the gentleman that gave it to us, by the way, he carries all the liability on that rink.
So you're open to looking at the farmer's market?
Yes, because we measured, this year we want to have a bigger rink, because everybody asked. We went out there, we cannot make it any bigger in the park, because you know we've got the barbecue thing there, we've got the bathrooms there. There is no way where to put it to make it larger, nowhere.
Okay, all right, I want to change gears.
Okay.
One more thing. As a council person, when you take your oath of office, you're telling the citizens that you'll be a good steward of their money.
Yes.
and that you will be a good steward of their assets.
Right.
And the reason I put it that way is these are not the city of Blue Ridge's assets to me. They belong to the residents of the city of Blue Ridge, these assets. So I have every candidate that's come in here. I went and I did an open records request, so I didn't show any partiality, okay? And I pulled the drive-in lease, I pulled the marina lease, and I pulled the depot lease.
Right.
Okay, those are the 3 city assets.
Right.
If elected, you will swear an oath to be a good steward of the citizens' assets. Now, before I ask you the question, as a post 4, you take office, do you feel there's parity in the way the assets are treated?
Well, I'll just say this to you. Like I said, I have been going for 3 years just to learn about city council and be at the meetings. I go to the workshops, which you don't have to go to, but I do. I am not really, have not dealt into that. I feel that those are really 3 good assets. As far as the city owning them, that is, I think that is, it does cause some problems with the city owning. Of course, the depot we want to own because that is downtown, but I think it's just it's a lot to keep up with liability-wise, and as insurance, we have to cover the insurance. And are we getting enough out of those to cover our liability?
Well, the marina, and it's here, but in the interest of saving time, I'm not going to flip through it. I've written it down. The marina pays the city $1,300 a month. The depot pays $3,245.23. Drive-in pays $500. Okay. Now, I guess what I asked, and I'm not an appraiser,
Right.
and I'm not into real estate.
Right.
And, you know, and if you can't answer this, I understand. But if I apply $32.45 to the depot, I may be able to say the price for the depot is in line with the business they have. So maybe it supports that kind of rent. You with me?
Right.
The marina, $1,300. Maybe the marina, I go out there. I haven't done the math, but you can't get your way through there in July. I understand it's different in January, February, but maybe that kind of business supports $1,300. Do you feel there's parity in the way the drive-in is charged $500 compared to the other 2? Do you see that?
Well, that has been.
Do you think if sworn in, you would be doing a service to the citizens to say that the land they own out there and the drive-in that sits on it's only worth $500 a month?
Well, that has been brought up several times in the council. Herb has been there. He feels that his rent is a little bit higher. I think it would have to be evaluated. I think you charge, it's like in LJ. They had the business, they raised the rent, and they kept raising the rent. Well, what happens is, after a while, you price themselves out, and then now LJ is sitting with vacant stores.
Right.
We have to look at, they should report their sales each month or quarterly or whatever. You should base a person's rent based upon their sales, I feel. Because if they're not making any money, why do they want to stay? So you say, okay, we will average it out as to what you make. Just like Tri-State deposit they do on your thing. They don't charge a deposit for how much your electricity is.
So I'm going to throw a number out. So for
Okay.
example, because you brought it up and I kind of enjoy this kind of stuff, if you looked at the depot's numbers and you said 18% ought to go towards, if you're a business owner,
Right.
and you say 18% ought to go for rent on your property,
Right.
okay? And you took this one and said, looked at their numbers and said 18%, and then looked at this one and said, well, that's only 9%. Then are the citizens losing? You know what I'm saying? Maybe what their income is on the depot and the marina are right in parity with parallel with what they should be paying. I just wondered, because it was a big subject, and some may wonder, why am I bringing this up? I have hours and hours of videotape on this where we videoed it. There's hours of meetings, there's multiple meetings where the new screen, you know, from that insurance paid for.
Right.
So this was a big subject in the campaign.
It was.
So, I mean, last year, so I just wondered, as a candidate, do you feel that the drive-in lease needs to be looked at again?
I think it needs to be looked at. I'm not saying that it needs to be raised, because like I said, you should not make a statement on something that you do not know. And I don't know what their income is. I don't know how many people attend the theater. I don't know what their expenses are. But I know, like with my landlord that I have, I lease my building. They come in and they assess what they have to maintain that building.
Right.
So they don't want to be out any money because they're in the business to make money. So they come in and assess it. And to make a statement about the drive-in, I don't know.
But assessing it would be something that should be on the table.
Yes, I think you should assess it and just to do the numbers with them and say, this is what we have to put out for you, this is what liability insurance we have to pay on your place. Are we in the hole? Is the city in the hole by the amount of money that you're paying? If we're in the hole, then basically you're giving them a free ride, I think, you know. But like I said, I do not know their business. I don't know what their expenses are, but I think they should be assessed.
Have you seen the increase in sales tax revenues that Walmart will bring to the city?
Yes, I saw the figures on that. I feel that, I know everybody doesn't want a Walmart, and I wasn't really too keen about it, but we need the sales tax, and we're giving it to LJ. I think Blue Ridge needs the sales tax, because Blue Ridge is, with so many small people there, we don't have the revenue come in. We can't support ourselves. We need the sales tax revenue coming in.
The sales tax revenue, is there a concern, or has there been a study done that shows what sales tax revenue will be lost from downtown?
Well, that was brought up, and I'll use the same example that I used before. You will have a Walmart customer. You have a downtown customer. And maybe you'll lose a slight amount of people, because it's like Starbucks went into Ingalls. Everybody said, oh my gosh, Starbucks is going into Ingalls, that's going to hurt you. And then Dunkin' Donuts go in. I'm still full steam. It's all in, it's just sometimes not the product, it's the service, it's the experience sometimes.
Atmosphere, everything.
Everything combined. And you just can't say, oh, because just because this moves in, it's going to hurt me. It's not going to hurt you. If you're doing your job with your business, concentrating on your business, instead of worrying about somebody else, you're going to be successful.
Well, don't you worry, because Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts do not have that great couch out in the front that you have. And in the transparency of disclosure, I've had many meetings sitting at that front couch with a cup of coffee. So there is a downtown customer, and I think I can agree with that.
That is. And there is a customer for every store. We did have, also there was a store that went out down in Blue Ridge, and the remark that was sent to the Business Association was that Blue Ridge didn't support them. And I don't like any business to fail. I went and talked to her and I said, well, you know, if your business is not working, then you've got to figure out why it's not working. Instead of blaming the public, figure out why. Because every woman loves to shop, and men, they like to figure out something. I mean, you can't just blame the public.
Don't you think Walmart could be a balance? And I say this, not getting sidetracked, because maybe a lot of the residents of Blue Ridge, lifelong residents, don't come downtown to the specialty shops.
Right, they don't.
And the tourists frequent those and support those. But then the residents don't want to drive 20 miles north, south, east, or west to go to Walmart for some of the things that they want a better value at.
Right.
So is there not a kind of maybe a happy medium possible there?
I think so, and then we do have a lot of older residents that I've found when walking around downtown. And as far as driving to LJ or driving, you know, to Blairsville, they're not going to do that. And it's going to be a benefit to them because they're going to have the grocery division in Walmart too. It's not going to be as big as the other one, but they can go in there. I mean, it'll be a convenience for the older people also.
In 2015, the SPLOST expires. Will you support renewing the SPLOST tax? Okay. Well, you know, Ms. Thompson, I agree. I enjoyed so much getting an opportunity to talk with you and get an opportunity to share you with the voters out there. Is there anything today that you wanted to talk about or share with the voters that you wanted to make sure we said that?
Well, I just want to say Blue Ridge is my passion. If it wasn't my passion, I wouldn't be doing all that I do on there. I don't do it for power. I do it because I enjoy it and I believe in giving back. That's what we're on this earth for, to give back. And I just believe that Blue Ridge is made up of people that care. You can notice it walking down the street. They love their town, and we want to keep people here and keep our sense of community. That's why I moved here. When I came here to visit friends, I thought, oh my gosh, you walk down the street, everybody knows you, everybody. When my husband passed away 2.5 years ago, there were so many people that came to his funeral. We had to rent the art center let us use it, and the food that all the restaurants gave us. And my friends that came here, they said they could not believe it. They never saw anything like it. And that's what Blue Ridge is, you know. It's the caring that back many years, other places were like that, but now like Florida, Miami, other places, New York, you walk down the street and does anybody look you in the eye? No, they don't. But here, everybody looks you in the eye. How are you doing today? And it's just a sense of community here. It makes you feel welcome, makes you feel special, I guess I should say, you know?
Well, that's a great way to end it, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Ms. Thompson. Brian Pritchard, FetcherNews.com, FYN Reports, November 5th. Go vote, don't complain. We'll have on our website when early voting starts and registration, but again, I don't want to hear you complain. Go vote.